Thank you for joining me for today's Police and Crime Commissioner Public Accountability session that will focus on trust and confidence in policing. Public accountabilities are one way of the many ways that I hold Durham Constabulary to account to ensure it continues to deliver an efficient and effective service to local people. I'm pleased to say that all of these meetings are recorded and will be available on YouTube for public viewing, and a link can be found on my office's website too. And a full recording of this meeting will be available shortly after to enable residents to see exactly how the accountability process works here in Durham. I should point out that these meetings are just as important as highlighting the areas we are doing well as those we could improve. They are lessons to be learnt in success, and I think this often quite forgotten, and it doesn't make the headlines as much as the negative side. But success can be replicated and applied to other areas of business, and this approach really fits with what we're about to discuss today, because there's lots of progress we are making in this very important area that the public want us to deliver. The focus of this meeting, as I mentioned, will be on trust and confidence, how we improve perceptions around the work our officers do, and how we increase the faith in the force's ability to protect our communities. Firstly, I should say that independent scrutiny is by itself a way of building trust and confidence in police services. It goes back to the very foundations of policing and the need to police by consent, which has been at the heart of British law and order since the 1800s. In this respect, we're all playing our part today. Confidence in policing has eroded over the years. National cases of serving officers who've fallen short of the standards have not only shocked the nation, but compounded distrust. A recent survey has shown that nationally, half of the adult population has little confidence in the police to tackle crime effectively where they live. This is the case for both men and for women. Not everyone has the personal experience of contacting the police, or indeed being a victim of crime. So this judgment is based entirely on media reports, word of mouth, or social media commentary. When these are negative, it does sow the seeds of mistrust, and pretty rapidly it makes it as much harder for our police officers and staff to do their jobs effectively. The road to improving trust and confidence is a long one, but we are making good progress. And as I said, and the Chief Constable will share these achievements shortly. Police and Crime Commissioners, of course, have a very important role to play in building trust and confidence. And I personally have made it my mission. That's why these accountability meetings focus on these issues, and in particular, the trust and confidence that we're looking at today. We very much the public face of policing. We meet residents, we meet business owners, and every day through the course of our work, and we take note of the issues that are contributing to the feelings of fear and sometimes frustration. And it's our job to raise these with the force and hold meetings with partners to resolve the issues together. And that's an important point, because the police can only do so much because there are drivers behind every type of offending. And we can't expect to wave a magic wand and solve them all with arrests. For this reason, PCCs work closely with a full range of partners to make sure that people are getting the help they need and so stop offending for good. One of the good things about these accountability meetings is the opportunity it gives to our local residents to put their questions directly to the force. And that's local accountability in action. The list of questions I will present later reflect the concerns of residents and businesses through my ongoing engagement, and also those who have been sent in purposely for this meeting. But the answers will be just as relevant for all of our communities, and so are serving a much wider purpose. This all helps us here in Durham to build trust and confidence. And as you've probably heard often, accessibility is very important in raising confidence. One of the government's key pledges within the plan for change is that every neighbourhood will have a named contactable officer helping to restore the local knowledge and presence that effective neighbourhood policing demands. We learn best by understanding the lived experiences of crime. And I know the Chief Constable and her senior officers really take these questions and answers opportunities very seriously. And it's no secret that Durham continues to struggle from decades of underfunding. What I'm doing to rectify this is perhaps for another time, but I would like to reiterate the importance of strong and visible policing in building trust and confidence. The priority for residents has not changed as long as I've been involved in policing. People want to see our officers on the street doing their jobs that they've been trained for. Shortly, Durham will be receiving a share of the £200 million this year to boost neighbourhood policing efforts, and this will result in extra policing officers. Though it won't take us back to the levels of 2010, it will nevertheless make a difference. And I can assure you I will be doing everything possible to make these extra boots on the ground count in the way that local people want. Before I start, can we please have some brief introductions from the Force executive team? For this afternoon session, I will invite Chief Constable Rachel Bacon to say a few words. But Rachel, if you would like to take this opportunity to introduce the team.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Joy, and welcome to everyone who's joining us today. I'm Rachel Bacon. I'm the Chief Constable. Should we have some more cameras on, guys?
Yep.
And then we'll run around the room.
Okay. Hello, I'm Dave Coxon. I'm Temporary Assistant Chief Constable.
Good afternoon. I'm John McAdam. I'm Assistant Chief Constable, responsibility for crime and people.
Okay, Rachel, I think I'd like to invite you to say a few words and provide some operational context and information before we have the presentation.
Lovely, thank you very much. I'm very grateful to be given this opportunity to discuss Durham's Constabulary's response to how we instill trust and confidence within our communities of County Durham and Darlington. Shortly, we'll hear from Steve Long, who is the Commander for Local Policing, and he'll go into detail on the different strands of building trust and confidence. Many aspects of policing have changed over time. However, the fundamental principle has remained the same, which policing is by consent. Of course, policing in England and Wales is not without challenge, and on occasions the standard of behaviour and conduct have fallen below what is expected. But I am truly committed to ensuring we have the right people and processes in place to provide communities with the very best possible services. Neighbourhood policing is at the very heart of everything we do. We'll continue to build trust and confidence by engaging with our communities, problem solving and analysing our demand in order to reduce threat, risk and harm. It's also so important to hear from all of you, the voice of you, our communities, our public, as we continue to build upon our performance as one of the best forces in the country. Durham has a very clear trust and confidence strategy, which includes working with other key stakeholders to ensure we respond to the needs of the public. You'll hear initiatives about utilising modern technology to tackle community issues and also our preventative approach to tackling hotspots for crime, antisocial behaviour and disorder. So I know you want to hear about this, and I'll hand over now to Steve Long to tell you more.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chief Superintendent Steve Long. I'm the local policing commander and also responsible for neighbourhood policing. I'm just going to upload a short presentation, so just please let me know when you can see the presentation coming through.
Looks like we've got it there, Steve.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, as the Chief Constable just alluded to, trust and confidence in Durham Constabulary is critical to service delivery. And this presentation will focus on how neighbourhood policing supports trust and confidence across the force area. You can see from the slides some of those founding principles of policing by consent of the public, that the police are the public and the public are the police, and that it's the absence of crime that is the test of police efficiency and not necessarily the police action in dealing with them. Now, earlier on, Commissioner raised this point that trust and confidence in policing has declined in recent years. A number of factors, which include negative media coverage locally and nationally, police misconduct, especially high-profile cases, and negative perceptions of police performance. But for me and the force, neighbourhood policing is the foundation on which the force builds confidence and trust. And Durham has maintained a strong, well-resourced neighbourhood policing model for many years, which will be increased in the forthcoming year. And community engagement provides us visibility and accessibility, provides the public with visibility and accessibility to dedicated named officers and PCSOs who build relationships with communities and deal with the issues that matter most to them in their communities. Now, the next slide draws upon Chief Constable's delivery plan. And you will see the 4 pillars there of organisational, people, operational and prevention. And for me, all of the pillars within the plan support trust and confidence. But I'm going to focus specifically on some examples today within the presentation. And broadly speaking, from an organisational perspective, for me, this is about exploring new technologies and approaches to engage with the public. It's about working with partners and sharing data to tackle crime and ASB, and the use of that data to inform hotspot policing so that police are patrolling those areas that matter most to the public. In terms of people, we've got dedicated cohesion resources working closely with neighbourhood policing teams to engage with all communities across the full diverse range of communities across County Durham and Darlington. And from an operational perspective, I'm going to really highlight some of the key operations, including Operation Drive, Night Star and Endurance, which really demonstrate how neighbourhood policing teams build confidence and trust. And I'll close the presentation today with some highlights on prevention. And as alluded to in the first slide, is that absence of crime that is the test of police efficiency. And it's the neighbourhood policing teams working alongside dedicated prevention staff that is driving those reductions. So I'm going to start us off with Rural Eye, which is a really great example of a rural communities working closely with neighbourhood officers and staff to share community intelligence, identify community safety risks and prevent crime. This initiative includes sharing community intelligence on WhatsApp groups, which is really quick and effective. All neighbourhood teams across the force have rural SPOCs who coordinate activity alongside dedicated Rural Eye coordinators, and we are utilising drone technology to assist with crime prevention and early evidence capture to support criminal investigations. Now, what this critically does is it builds strong relationships within the community, which become long-term, sustained relationships, which build reciprocal trust and confidence. And we've just seen in the last couple of weeks a really good example of that in quite a significant missing from home investigation out in the more rural aspect of the force area, which was strongly supported by the local communities working alongside our neighbourhood policing teams and dedicated search teams. And there was a really strong community bond and strong community support to assist in that investigation. And I think that demonstrates how Rural Eye really builds strong, cohesive relationships with the community. Now I'm going to move us on to another aspect of neighbourhood policing, and that is the focus on retail crime, which is Operation Cargo and Shop Watch. Retail crime is a force priority, and it's essential that the force supports the business community and the broader economic development in County Durham and Darlington. And neighbourhood policing teams investigate the majority of retail crime now. And this type of crime can be a proxy for antisocial behaviour, and we recognise that this can be a blight on communities and business owners. You'll see on the side the full range of tactics that we're currently utilising to support Operation Cargo, which includes crime prevention and enforcement, relaunch of the Shop Watch schemes where retailers communicate with the local authority, and neighbourhood policing teams and other retailers on closed social media messaging groups, the use of Shop Watch radios and the use of criminal behaviour orders to ensure that those most prolific offenders are targeted. And we've also built on what were already good relationships with retailers, but I can firmly say that in the last 12 months, we've strengthened those relationships with the retailers who had lost some confidence in policing around our response to retail crime, both locally and nationally. But to reassure everyone, the force has some of the highest positive outcome rates nationally in relation to retail crime. And recently, critically, we've started to see reductions in reported retail crime in some parts of the force. So to reiterate, we've got those neighbourhood teams working alongside dedicated prevention staff, making a real positive impact on retail crime with partners from the local authority. And we've seen increased confidence in reporting from retailers. And we now have dedicated resources working in the virtual investigation team that provide a quicker and more efficient response to shoplifting and retail crime. Operation Trailblazer. This is hotspot policing, and police visibility reassures communities that their safety is a priority. It fosters a sense of security and strengthens community connections to neighbourhood policing. Now, Operation Trailblazer has been a real success. I'll probably draw your attention first of all to that 7,000 hours of joint patrol, in addition to what was already being provided across the force area by neighbourhood policing teams. Now, that additional funding has enabled neighbourhood policing teams to work alongside our partners and deliver some really positive, strong outcomes. 130 arrests, 200 fixed penalty notices issued, 300 antisocial behaviour warnings, 11 dispersal notices, and 17 community protection notices. And that is in those hotspot areas where we know crime, disorder, and antisocial behaviour is an issue for our communities. Now, we are currently awaiting the refreshed guidance from the Home Office in relation to the funding for 25-26, but I'm delighted that that funding has been refreshed because Operation Trailblazer has been really well received by the public. There's really positive public engagement and interaction, social media platforms where you can clearly see the public interacting with the force because they can see policing activity in their communities dealing with the issues that matter to them. Now, in addition to our neighbourhood teams, we've also got dedicated staff who work alongside our neighbourhood teams across the force area. A number of roles dedicated to supporting community engagement and cohesion. The dedicated diversity, equality and inclusion team, which includes police officers and PCSOs, work alongside our teams and undertake a broad range of community engagement activities to ensure that the force engages with all communities across the force area. That includes a dedicated race equality inspector, which is a recent addition to the team in the last 12 months. The team also support recruitment, development, progression and retention of talent across Durham Constabulary, and that ensures that we are representative of communities. The cohesion team really support victim care levels for hate crime, remaining consistently high with the team contacting all victims and creating bespoke victim needs assessments. And the team also engage with independent advisory groups and various scrutiny panels relating to stop search, use of force and hate crime. And I'll talk more about that use of force and use of stop search later on in the presentation. The Future Pathways programme is a good example of the work done by neighbourhood policing teams, the local authority and the Youth Justice Service in partnership to support social cohesion. The national disorder last year impacted communities, and there was a level of unrest across the force area, but specifically within the Darlington community. And it was highlighted that young people involved would benefit from further education on the incident. So this collaboration, Future Pathways, involved 9 young people, 3 Future Pathways staff, and 9 members of Durham Constabulary, utilising various sports together bring young people together who could gain a new perspective on police officers, which has led to an overall reduced mistrust and fear, but it also better facilitated an understanding of the needs and challenges of disengaged youths, creating a foundation for stronger community ties and improved future interactions. So the neighbourhood policing teams provide clear, recognisable officers and PCSOs that the public can contact through a broad range of engagement methods. And the full range of methods are there on screen for everyone to see: the monthly pack meetings, the pop-up pacts, online packs, the dedicated neighbourhood social media pages, which are particularly popular, which tie in closely with the force social media, the regular updates and contact with our key individual networks. This is all accessible through the police.uk website and direct dial contact details and email into neighbourhood policing teams. And what that engagement methodology gives us is strong community engagement, enables the force to understand community concerns and priorities, making policing more responsive and relevant. But critically, further investment in neighbourhood policing teams is now planned over the next 12 months. This investment, of course, is really well received, and it is drawn down from the neighbourhood policing grant, which will see an additional 26 police constables recruited into neighbourhood policing teams, providing greater capacity and capability. And this investment will enable the force to deliver more for communities and expand on the work that is already being done. Which leads me on to the work that is being done right now. Operation Drive is the recently introduced force-wide neighbourhood policing operation to prevent crime and antisocial behaviour and tackle issues important to our communities. And you can see on the slide there, it's about disruption. It's about the relentless targeting of criminals who blight our communities. It's about reassurance, building trust and confidence in our communities. And it's about intervention, applying early intervention that works and good problem-solving approaches. It's about visibility. We've touched upon this in Trailblazer, but it's about a strong focus on hotspot areas and critically about engagement with the public. And the broad aim of Operation Drive is to show communities what neighbourhood policing activity looks like, what it feels like, and what outcomes are being delivered. And this operation aims to keep communities informed about what we're doing, to keep communities safe, and demonstrate transparency and accountability, which builds trust and fosters good relationships. Another long-standing operation, which is now well established within the force, is Operation Endurance, which is tackling the danger of off-road bikes, which we know are a real concern for residents and can result in significant harm to young people. Operation Endurance now has been in the force for a number of years, and it utilises neighbourhood policing teams working alongside our partners from the local authority and the use of specialist police off-road motorbikes to really target those criminals and those people using off-road bikes to cause antisocial behaviour in communities. We also use drones, CCTV and long-range cameras to supplement that targeted activity, and we use a range of enforcement activity and partner agency powers relating to tenancy agreements to identify offenders and make sure that we seize off-road bikes where we can. Operation Night Star is another example of neighbourhood policing teams working alongside our local authority partners at Trading Standards to tackle illegal vapes and tobacco, which we know present a serious risk to health, and the proceeds are often used to facilitate organised crime, which does result in more serious and violent offending, which we know impacts on community safety. Now, since this operation started in late 2022, over £300,000 worth of illegal vapes and tobacco has been seized, and this operation has been recognised as a national best practice. Now take us on to the use of police powers. The legitimate use of police powers is critical for community confidence and trust in the force. We know that when police powers are used disproportionately or without legitimacy, this can negatively affect trust and is especially damaging for some communities and young people. Therefore, the force ensures the use of police powers is properly scrutinised and reviewed. And you can see on the slide there the full range of oversight and scrutiny that the force adopts to make sure that we are procedurally just and fair when using these police powers. We're open and transparent to the public. So we have mandatory sergeant reviews of all stop searches and monthly inspector reviews to quality assure that standard, and with a particular focus on those who are under 18 and from ethnic minorities. We have regular external scrutiny panels for stop and search, including a youth panel, which reviews randomly selected stop searches and provides feedback and learning to officers. And that feedback is used to enhance and improve training. We have focused patrols to ensure stop and search powers are used effectively to tackle crime and antisocial behaviour, and all use of force must be recorded and is subject to independent oversight and scrutiny, with external and internal scrutiny panels working alongside the personal safety training team to learn from where we make mistakes. I'm going to finish the presentation on a really important aspect of what this is in terms of neighbourhood policing. The force has a long history of problem solving with a national reputation which includes recognition at the Goldstein Awards. But to build on that success, the force has recently restructured to better align dedicated prevention staff with neighbourhood policing teams. This will see prevention hubs established in the 4 localities, working alongside neighbourhood teams and partners. This will improve the sharing of case studies of successful intervention and problem solving, ensure lessons are learned, which will inform future training, and crucially, critically evaluate prevention and intervention initiatives to show communities how we are making communities safer. And as part of that restructure, the force has also moved a really successful programme in relation to integrated offender management into the prevention team function. And that will see that integrated offender management team working more closely with the neighbourhood policing teams, targeting those offenders, and a real focus on a victim, offender and location intervention methodology. Thank you, Commissioner. That's the end of the presentation.
Thanks very much, Steve. It's really helpful. And I think, as mentioned at the start, although we have in this presentation today, I'm sure, given the information that you've provided, this presentation will be used numerous times across the community when I talk about trust and confidence, when the teams talk about trust and confidence, and also we work with our partners. So it's a really useful piece of work that will be used and utilised numerous times. So I want to go straight into the questions, because I think that's what, obviously, from a public's point of view, they've asked the questions, and what we're looking for is the answers. I'll leave it open for whoever's going to, from the executive team, who wants to come in, but I'll move very swiftly on to the first question, which is, what targeted interventions initiatives are in place to address violent crime hotspots, improve the response times, and also enhance the visible policing in the affected hotspot areas?
Okay, so thanks, Commissioner. I'll take this one. So Steve's described the benefits of initiatives such as Op Trailspace, Op Drive, along with others in some detail within the presentation, and these all take place across hotspot areas. Clearly, recognising and responding to emergency crime spots to prevent further harm has been a focus for the force, and a new tactical tasking coordination model has been implemented to review intelligence and incidents on a daily, weekly and monthly basis to identify those emerging hotspots, agree patrol strategies for the initiatives that Steve's alluded to, and to task agreed resources to those areas concerned. We know that serious violence has a devastating impact on the lives of victims and families, and instills fear within our communities, whilst being extremely costly to the wider society. Serious violence features on our force control strategy and within the tasking model that I've just outlined. The Serious Violence Prevention Partnership has a full governance structure in place and includes a range of partnership meetings accessing data from across Durham and Darlington. There are strategic, tactical and operational groups focused on specific areas which address the issues raised in this question. Examples of this include funding both from the Serious Violence Duty Fund and from yourself, the Commissioner, to fund many initiatives which include accredited licensing courses for police and partnership staff to enable them to deal with unsafe and illegal activity and actions in licensed premises. Joint operations that are targeting illegal taxis and potential predators on the most vulnerable in society within the nighttime economy in Durham, Darlington, Consett and Stanley. The provision of joint funding for bleed kits within those nighttime economy locations to support the treatment of people at the earliest possible stage. Passive drugs dogs operations are also taking place, which are focused very much on violence against women and girls, on organised crime, and the funding of joint patrols, which focuses on the violence against women and girls in the nighttime economy. whilst developing an approach known nationally as Project Vigilant, more locally as ASMARI, which uses uniform and plainclothes officers to identify potential persons of concern or sexual predators within our localities. We've continued to develop the use of public space protection orders in partnership with local authorities in both Durham and Darlington to tackle violence and antisocial behaviour, and have also issued several criminal behaviour orders within those localities in recent months to good effect. We're also carrying out within Darlington joint patrols with the Royal Military Police every weekend to ensure that we're dealing robustly and swiftly with military-related instances of disorder and violence. So you can see a good range building on Steve's presentation there in terms of how we're tackling that question that you pose around violent crime hotspots.
Thanks, David. And I think that's really helpful because it's shown the raft of initiatives, but also how much support it's great when we get with partners, and also that additional support that allows us to do the targeted interventions that we'd like to do all the time. But obviously sometimes the funding, external funding, does help, because we've got some great ideas in the community of what works and what could work. And I think a little bit of pump priming does go a long way. And as you've said, we've seen the results of some great initiatives that's been delivered and developed bottom up to go forward. So thank you very much for that answer. This is from another resident saying, having personally been a victim, I experienced greater harm from the police investigation / follow-up, something the public should have confidence in rather than the crime itself. Many members of the public share similar concerns, and they feel that the process lacks transparency and accountability, especially for the less serious crimes. So from this resident's perspective, she's saying, or he's saying, what's the point in reporting it in the first place, and how will you ensure that victims are fully informed throughout the investigative process?
Thanks, Commissioner. I'll pick this one up if I may. I think firstly, I'd really sincerely like to apologise for the negative experience and the clear personal impact this has had on the person raising this question. Our focus as a force is to ensure we provide a first-class service to all victims, and this is outlined in our Chief Constable's delivery plan, which details our overall commitment as a force and drives our force activity to ensure we are delivering against this. Notwithstanding the negative experiences in this case, I would encourage anyone who has been subject to crime to report it so that we can respond, we can support any local and personal needs, and also to look to bring offenders to justice. We are absolutely committed to ensuring the best support for victims and have a number of steps we will take to ensure you are appropriately supported. And these include, we have a victim information booklet. This is provided in different formats in support of what those personal needs are. So it's either in a paper form, via email, text, and they're given by the initial officer when a crime is recorded. This outlines what happens when a crime is reported. It explains what the code of practice for victims of crime is, which are the rights and entitlements every victim has, and details crime prevention advice and a list of useful contacts, which is such as our partners from the local authority, Harbour, who provide our specialist domestic violence advisory service, Citizens Advice, Crime Stoppers, and other support services. Then we move on to the Victim Care and Advice Service, so VCAS as they're known. The offer of support from VCAS is a mandatory question that we ask of all victims when completing a crime report. VCAS provide free, independent and confidential support for victims of crime, and this is tailored to their personal circumstances also, and it can be accessed by the victim at any point in their journey. And then for each crime that comes through, we carry out a victim needs assessment, and this is something that's agreed between the victim and the investigating officer. It includes how frequently the officer is to contact the victim, the safest means of contact, and whether there is an associated risk of contact with the victim as we start to continue that ongoing journey with them. And confirmation that the victim has the officer's contact details so they can contact them directly also, and that a victim care booklet has been provided. So again, just to provide that reassurance, we've done the first steps. And then we have supervisor ringbacks, and these are basically where a supervisor will make contact to ensure that we've got true transparency and general oversight of recorded crimes. The investigating officer supervisor will contact the victim and ensure their needs are being managed sufficiently by the officer. And then we've got the great work that goes on within our witness care unit. This is a pool of staff who offer general support to victims, as well as keeping them informed about the progress of their case should it be sent to court. And then we've got a fairly significant investment that's been made into My Durham experience, into a system called My Durham Portal. And this enables direct communication between the victim and the investigating officer. And this is via a two-way messaging function, and will provide a timeline of events through the investigation. The service is currently offered to 6 crime types out of 9 incident types. But obviously, as it's moving through its implementation and progression, we will be looking to roll this out further. And then finally, just to ensure we are doing what we said we would do, and making sure that we really truly understand our position as a force with victims, we conduct victim satisfaction surveys. And these are surveys of people who have recently come into contact with the police after reporting a crime, be it burglary, hate crime, criminal damage, fraud, harassment, vehicle crime, violent crime, or domestic abuse, or if there is an incident of antisocial behaviour. And then the results of these surveys are analysed, and the findings are used to continually make sure we're making improvements and providing that effective service that the public would expect, and that we strive to provide.
Thanks, John. And it's obviously very comprehensive, and it's what goes on behind the scenes that sometimes our residents aren't aware of. But for this resident in particular, what I would like to say is, if as a police and crime commissioner, recognise the importance of the victims and putting victims first and front and centre in what we do. I have appointed a victims champion who works very closely with victims of crime, and we've also a victim of champion for antisocial behaviour and a victim of domestic violence and survivors. Really important to learn the lessons, and I think what I set out at the start, there's some good lessons, there's some really excellent practice that we share with the force, but where things similar to this resident, we will also share that, learn from the experiences. And what I've found as the commissioner is that when we know about it and we do flag it out, that the force are very receptive and very keen to learn, like I say, what went well and what could be done better. And I think obviously with the chief and the new plan that we've got in place, I think this will just get better going forward and building on the strong foundations that we've had. But it's very important that we know about these things, because sometimes if we are aware, we can do something about it, and that door is open for anybody who wants to come forward. So thank you, John, for that comprehensive answer. The next question from another resident is, says he's deeply concerned about the lack of progress and communication in respect of their complaint, which is a concern that is shared by many. Why is it taking several months for the force to provide me with a final response? Timely action is necessary to ensure that there is confidence in the police complaints process.
I'll pick this one up as well, if I may, Commissioner. So again, I can only convey my apologies that actually this has been their experience, appreciating that we will always strive for that excellence. We clearly haven't got it right in this case. Firstly, this is twofold. One, in the fact that they felt there was a need to make a formal complaint in the first place, and secondly, for the response that was subsequently received. It's certainly not the level of service we would seek to provide, and if we've fallen short on both counts in this, then we will obviously seek to rectify that across the constabulary. With regards to timeliness of complaints and the processes involved, these are governed by a regulated framework, which includes oversight from the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC, and they have their own statutory guidance, which we have to work within, as well as the Police Complaints and Misconduct Regulations of 2020. So as a force, we have a dedicated professional standards department who oversee our conduct and behaviours and ensure independence from the rest of the organisation. all public complaints are received within the Professional Standards Department, where they will then review these, provide updates as subsequent complaint investigations are progressed. The vast majority of complaints, however, are actually dealt with outside of investigations. They're more an issue of process or needing some subsequent action to rectify an outstanding query. And these fall outside of the professional standards arena, so they would ultimately be addressed and finalised. But in order to improve, to ensure an improved service, we do make sure that these are managed in investigation format within professional standards, and we have increased our staffing within the team to ensure that there is more efficiency there. The next part then, it depends on the nature of the complaint, because these can be extremely complex in nature. They may involve additional criminal matters that have to be investigated. And unfortunately, this can create delays. So firstly, we have to complete a thorough investigation. And secondly, if there is a criminal aspect, a side to this, we have to prioritise that ahead of any misconduct complaint and subsequent investigation. This should, however, be explained throughout the time the investigation is ongoing, and any time delay explained. Now, when a complaint is received, there will be initial acknowledgement that it's sent straight away, and then the triage process starts, and that is then continuing to look at what the nature of the complaint is and how it can be addressed appropriately and robustly as well, with an expectation that underpins all of this with regular updates that are at least every 28 days. We will always work to ensure all complaints are finalised at the earliest opportunity, but this will be dependent on a number of factors that can complicate that, notwithstanding the need to be thorough and ensure that we are resolving these, having had them investigated properly by the right people.
Thanks, John. And again, it's really helpful for the person who's actually taken the time to put that in to get that full answer. The other thing that I think might be worth sharing in the YouTube link, Sweetie, is the complaints procedures. But also at the end of the procedures, if people want to appeal or they would like to pick it up, my office has a part to play as well. So we will put that in together with the recording for today. So anybody who's listening to this knows how to complain and then how to appeal, if that's, I think that would be really useful for people as well. The next question is from a local business. It says, I have a local business and I am reluctant to report incidents to the police because of how long the investigation takes. What work is being done with businesses and retail representatives to increase the trust and confidence across the sector, in particular the forces approach to persistent offenders?
Okay, thank you. I'll pick this one up if I may. So after 31 years of policing in Durham, I'm always disappointed when I hear that people are reluctant to report incidents to us. It highlights that we're not doing enough to support those people in their communities, and the need to improve our response. And I'd like to first build on comments made by Steve on the work that we're doing with the business and retail representatives to improve their confidence to report incidents. So Steve talked about the work we do in partnership with the retail sector through both Pub Watch and Shop Watch, giving our retail partners up-to-date information and intelligence on both crime trends and recidivist offenders to support that increased awareness and also the early reporting of incidents and concerns by the retail sector. That enables us to carry out additional patrols in areas which we've identified as got high footfall periods to provide reassurance, deter criminality, and also to increase our intelligence and understanding of the area and what's going on at that time. We have regular meetings with the third sector and support agencies to ensure that offenders are given help to step outside of that circle of addiction and to lead productive lives away from criminality, which will often be acquisitive crime. So we do work to deter offenders. And whilst some will take the help and support that's offered and stop their pattern of offending, others don't. To these, we issue red notices, which explain that their actions are causing a disproportionately negative effect on businesses, residents and visitors, explaining to them that the information may then be shared with other partners, such as the Department for Work and Pensions and Social Services, to ensure that punitive measures, where appropriate, are instigated to try and alter poor behavioural patterns. We also become really successful in applying for criminal behaviour orders, which I touched on in a previous question, particularly on the back of shoplifting offences and other crimes, where robust conditions are applied to offenders to prevent further offending, where they don't see other sanctions as having an impact on them. We are constantly looking at problem solving, which again Steve talked about, and ways that we're going to improve that over the coming months. And looking at prevention into shoplifting with target hardening, evidence-led academic-based problem-solving solutions, such as those that influence behavioural change and prevent crime. We've also got our persistent offenders, those that have offended for a number of years and continue to offend despite interventions. And Steve talked about the offender management team and the work they're doing with probation service and other agencies to ensure that those criminogenic needs of identified offenders are being addressed. The aim of this is to prevent them from needing to reoffend. Now, when I talk about criminogenic needs, I'm talking about those needs that we jointly seek to address, which include accommodation issues, helping to employment, maintaining relationships, developing positive thinking and behaviour, lifestyle choices, and substance abuse, such as alcohol and drugs misuse. We also ensure that actions and diversionary schemes are set up in each of the areas, and that a dedicated offender manager works with the offender to ensure that they attend support groups, training schemes and appointments, many of which will be as a condition of the licence as a result of the work that the offender manager has done when a person's attended court. Hope that helps, Joy.
Thank you, Dave. Yes, it does. And I think this one for local businesses, and I know just as early as this week, I've just seen some really significant positive results in relation to crime trends. And I know from the sector, we did pull a Safer Business task force together, and we have real great input from the force and the partners to see how the single point of contact and it's being driven at a local level is having the impact it's having, but it's obviously getting to court and then the impact of what happens within the court, within the criminal justice sector. I think that the last part of that question around persistent offenders, I think you answered that really well. There's some real challenges in there, because if people are committing crime because it's linked to their addictions, and unless you sort the addictions out, they're going to continue just the revolving door. And you know, so that's really, really important, and there's some really positive work there. But I think having the Safer Business Task Force and the national input, as well as the small retailers, informing that we get best practice and we sharing that across the force area. But also we're learning from the national side, and I think what we've seen is that partnership approach. I think at the front line, where the businesses are taking that lead and having the input of managing the business, but also the opportunities to report and to record, but keeping everybody posted. I think that's been really helpful, and I think there's some exciting plans in the new plan going forward to build on that as well. Thank you. Next question. Over the many years, I've been continually concerned about the lack of police attendance at town and parish council meetings. Fostering better communication with local residents should be a priority for the police. Why has this position changed?
Again, so I'll pick this one up if I may. So building relationships within communities and improving lines of communication is crucial to the UK model of policing, which both yourself and Stephen and the Chief Constables discussed in previous conversations. A number of years ago, we reviewed how we were engaging with communities against the backdrop of changes in technology and society. And we found that relying on meetings with town and parish councils, whilst important work, wasn't achieving the reach that we needed. We also found it challenging to attend all town council and parish council meetings, given the numbers involved. So in total, 126 meetings is a minimum per month when you break that down between the town council and parish councils and those areas where no formal local council existed. We've never withdrawn from communication with communities, and indeed neighbourhood officers, staff and leaders attend hundreds of engagement events and meetings each and every month. Local teams also hold regular packed meetings, have pop-up packed meetings in areas of high footfall within their communities, and maintain a strong presence on all digital platforms. which is well managed and monitored across the force. The neighbourhood teams also have regular contact with elected members from local community and local government through all forms of media, either direct face-to-face, phone, email, newsletters, or at surgeries, etc. The leadership and teams meet with community partners and other services and the voluntary sector on a daily basis, quite often, in the form of collaborative meetings. We also have community safety partnership meetings, which aim to fully understand local problems and develop sustainable joint solutions to make sure that the information from communities and from partners is feeding into us and that we're responding appropriately. And then MAPS, which is a long-standing group, a multi-agency problem-solving group, meets every month. That group includes local authorities, civic enforcement officers, trading standards, licensing, social services, local health, NHS, mental health. I could go on talking about care providers, schools, education, a wide breadth of people from across the communities, across the sectors, to make sure that we have a full picture about what's happening in those communities. It also enables two-way communication, because we don't just talking about what the police are doing when we're going out in that partnership arrangement. We're talking about our response as a partnership agreement. There's also the option, if there is a specific issue that would benefit from our attendance at a specific community event, then liaison with the local neighbourhood team will make sure that we are represented. We'll continue to take that approach. So, as I say, we're not withdrawing from communication. We've never withdrawn from communication. We're looking to see how we can do that better in a modern world where people's time is limited, in terms of community time is limited, and technology is available to help us on certain occasions. Thanks, Troy.
Thanks, David. Just on that one, I know it's a real challenge, and it's something not just from this resident. I do get a lot, because obviously I go to different meetings as well. And I'm speaking from a previous county councillor and town councillor. I was fortunate in Bishop Auckland town that I had one town council and I had no parishes. In Evenwood, they had lots of parish council meetings to attend, and if they didn't attend, very similar to what that resident's saying, the presence was missed. And so you've got different neighbourhoods and different pulls on the time, and it's quite important that we get that information out in different ways. And as we put more resource to the neighbourhoods, I think, as you're right, if there's something specifically that people want to speak about, you want to be there. But it's trying to look at what works in one area, it would be completely unworkable in another area. And I think but residents in those areas don't realise that they're different to other areas as well in relation to the impact of the demand on the policing locally. So I think going forward, it is about that communication, isn't it? Getting the information out, reaching out to those areas and sharing the intel, because I think that's a key part of what the local communities are wanting, that input from police. But I'm sure that's a key point for us going forward, to make sure that, even which I've seen, the police are quite willing to give reports as well if there is anything in particular, to build those relationships up within the community, and being quite dynamic of how they do pop-up pacts or formal pacts or online. So there's lots of variations, but I think it's picking up the best practice across the force area and sharing that going forward. So thank you. Next question is, how can policing ensure that it has a robust and effective mechanism in place, both to prevent misconduct and criminality by officers, and to deal with these issues if they occur?
I'll pick this one up if I may. Obviously, it's always sad that we have to address such an issue in the first place, but I guess just leading through this is, as previously mentioned, we have our professional standards department within force. Each force has such an arrangement, and we have the obviously the governance and oversight that goes with that. There's a rigorous code of conduct that they ensure the force operates to. This has the added oversight of the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC. Within Durham Constabulary Professional Standards, our department also has a separate counter-corruption unit. And these are a team of staff who are responsible for dealing with individuals, both officers and staff, should their conduct in terms of the standards of professional behaviour raise a concern or be brought to the team's attention. And this team works behind the scenes to identify any form of misconduct or criminal behaviour, should that be the case. The Home Office guidance, it's called the Conduct, Efficiency and Effectiveness. It's statutory guidance on professional standards, performance and integrity in policing. This assists practitioners in decision making and those operating within the professional standards environment on what they could and should be doing, and details the processes and procedures concerning the handling of complaints, conduct matters, and deaths and serious injuries, including how they should be investigated and how subsequent proceedings should be brought. Again, within Durham, we have a really strong prevent message in force. We try to make sure actually we don't get to these sort of behaviours. So we have a prevent officer. They're involved in onboarding processes, so they will engage with newly appointed staff and also newly promoted sergeants and inspectors through various training and interactions. We run external workshops with partner agencies looking at the abuse of position for a sexual purpose, and again bringing that learning back into force. And then we have a professional standards department scenario of the month, which we publish every month to ensure that we're really just keeping people aware of what could be contained within some misconduct and poor behaviours or even criminality, and making sure that we're doing shared learning. Then we have continuous professional development days, internal training events, and as I say, the prevent officer is quite front and centre. So they'll attend stations and present full questions and answers as well to ensure that we can myth bust and address any issues and hopefully keep ourselves upstream. And then we have those prevent lessons learned and early intervention going on with integrity interviews if we need to with staff members and specific individuals should they not breach the standards but be of a sort of increasing concern. And then ensuring that any appropriate behaviour can actually be identified and is dealt with appropriately. It's being addressed both nationally and locally in terms of making sure that we've got direct reporting. So we've obviously got formal reports that can be made through existing processes. So contacting the force directly to make a report of concern or criminality, we will always respond to that. But in addition, we have confidential reporting mechanisms, both internally, so it can be done through a whistleblowing policy, but also through anonymous processes that are run actually for us nationally through the Crime Stoppers charity, and that's fully anonymised, and we'll get the information and act on it appropriately. In support of this, we have an analytical function that works within our professional standards department to ensure that we're spotting signs, themes, and are able to appropriately respond in a timely manner. And we have an intelligence staff member who works within there as well to ensure that we're constantly reviewing intelligence and again keeping ourselves on the front foot. And then ultimately all of this is underpinned by robust vetting processes right at the start of anyone's employment and throughout their employment that ensures that we have the right people employed in the first place, and that we're making sure that those standards are maintained throughout.
Thanks, John. I think that those very robust processes, and as I've seen, we look at which has again started at the beginning. Sometimes those national issues has an impact locally, but we pick that up, and it has like significantly changed. It's coming nationally for policing, but it's just to give that trust and confidence that it is taken very, very seriously. Like you said, at the very outset of that, but also throughout somebody's career within the force. So hopefully the residents ask those questions has got that reassurance that these issues are being dealt with to prevent misconduct and criminality by officers as well. And if they've been found, obviously dealt with severely. Next question is, what new technologies are Durham Constabulary considering to support the public trust and confidence agenda in the future?
Okay, I'll pick this one up. So we all know just how fast technology moves and how expensive it can be to implement. The force works with national leads to ensure that any investment we make will produce benefits, such as improving the quality of experience and response for our communities. We've also worked with yourself and the PCC's office, and who have supported the investment in technology to improve policing both now and in the future. And whilst some technologies that we're considering we're using will directly impact on service delivery, others will bring about savings that will enable us to get out in the communities rather than carrying out back office functions. I'll give some examples of those technologies first. So the first I'll turn to is Doc Defender, which has been live now for just over a week. Doc Defender is a bit of software that assists us with document redaction. And in the first week of use, 356 files have been uploaded, 4,249 pages have been processed, which has saved more than 55 hours of police officers' times in the first week. We've also introduced portable cell-bright kiosks. This is a device that's available to frontline investigators, which enables them to carry out mobile phone downloads with agility and conduct victim phone downloads at a mutually agreed time and date without having to bring it to the station, which was what we previously used. We often use these at the victim's address, which minimises the time that the victim is without the device, which is really important when you think about some of the vulnerability members of the community that we've got. We're also using robotic process automation. So we have bots that are working within the force 24/7 to improve the speed and accuracy of sifting data. Much of this is carried out, as I say, through the night, working 24/7, so that when we come in the morning, we've got the data available to us to make some really important and swift decisions. This is an area that's being further rolled out across the force, and we're considering how we can use that better in the future. We're also developing an improved records management system, which will reduce double keying and bring about additional operational benefits, again reducing the time that officers and staff are spending on clerical type activity. And we're implementing systems that will directly support members of the community. So I'll talk about some of those now. Axon Community allows members of the public to receive a simple text message or email to which they can then access a portal and upload digital material, rather than previously where we would receive a memory stick from them and have to download that ourselves. John's already talked about My Durham portal, which enables direct communication between the victim and the officer in the case to give updates on the investigation. We've also begun last year using Single Online Home, which is a digital front office, which offers a wealth of information and the ability to report crime and incidents online. Incidents are recorded on the website and are securely sent to us for recording and allocation. We have live chat, something that which most people are used to within their personal lives, which gives the ability in working hours for one-to-one digital communication and reporting incidents being conducted, rather than having to speak to an officer in person, face-to-face. And we're also developing a rapid video response, which is a solution that offers police officers and staff two-way video calling, allows the victims to have face-to-face conversations with an officer without delay to improve that victim journey, and also support evidential outcomes through the evidence gathering process. We are using sign video, so we've got a tool for sign language interpretation for contact with the police. Another important operation that we're running is Operation Cut On, which sees specially trained cyber and digital officers who can deploy to victims of stalking offences where there's a concern that the victim is being digitally or cyber stalked through devices. This operation triages victims' devices at the scene for the presence of any stalkware that a suspect may have implemented, and gives detailed digital safety advice to the person that we want to safeguard. The Force's specialist digital forensics unit support the active management of registered sex offender under Operation Parallelogram. They utilise specialist digital search and triage skills to ensure that sexual offenders are being managed in the community and minimising the risk to public. And finally, we've had lots of talk already in the presentation around the use of drones. We're seeing their benefit across a raft of incident types now. So Steve's talked about missing persons and theft, etc. Also, the use that we're putting to them in relation to off-road motorbikes and antisocial behaviour. So we're seeing their increased use across the force, which enables a swift response at a fraction of the cost of the previously used helicopter. That's a snapshot You get that.
It's huge, isn't it? It is huge, and I just want to use this opportunity to thank the team that we have internally. It is really important that we have the people with the skills to bring this out and to roll it out so we can all benefit from it. And so there's a lot. I know myself and the chief are very passionate about this area, and we really want to accelerate as much as we possibly can to improve obviously the performance, but also the efficiency and the effectiveness of what we do, and to really target our, the problem solving approach. And so reducing duplication is really, really important. And I know that example that you give about the reduction, it's huge. It's really huge. And so I'm hoping that, again, with the support of myself and the chief, we are investing in the areas that will make the biggest difference to the public, and they'll see the benefits of it as well. Sometimes it is behind the scenes and they don't see all that. But like you say, 55 hours it's significant, and if we can do more of that, we will do. And I think with the public support, we'll continue that as well. So thanks very much, David. So I think the last question is, does the Chief Constable intend to ensure that rural areas have the resources they need to cover the large, expansive, isolated areas?
Thank you, Joy. I'm going to answer this question. And as you know, since my arrival as Chief Constable, you and I have discussed at length the approach to rural areas, the sense of isolation, and my absolute determination to make all the communities feel safe and feel that they are appropriately policed. The central focus on neighbourhood teams definitely includes making sure that we have the right resources in those rural areas, and we have increased police officers and PCSOs in some of our rural neighbourhood policing teams. We're very fortunate in terms of receiving the uplift in terms of neighbourhood policing and a further 26 posts. And we're on track for PCSO recruitment during 2025 to 40 PCSOs. So overall, we will continue to make sure that we utilise those across all of our community areas, making sure that we're there when people really need us. But of course, it is challenging, and we do have to think a bit differently about rural areas. We think a lot about the forced rural and wildlife crime priorities. So we've listened to those local communities, and they very much identified to us things that worry them. So those rural crime priorities focused upon farmland, machinery, plant theft, livestock offences and poaching, which is very different and needs a different approach. And you and I together at the beginning of last year launched Rural Eye, which was very much about bringing together one approach with operational and partnership strands in the strategy, and really making sure that we were targeting and working with communities, very much in rural areas. The local communities are our eyes and ears, and we've definitely found that the money that's been invested in terms of the Safer Streets bid, which was £250,000, into dedicated rural watch coordinators, and increasing our surveillance capacity in terms of drones and drone pilots, because again, these are difficult areas to cover, but we're putting not only people but technology into them, which is definitely leading to us issuing more enforcement in those rural areas. So we've issued 31 community protection warnings and 3 community protection notices across County Durham and Darlington during 2024. And this is really about saying that our, relentless pursuing of perpetrators includes rural areas. We definitely want them to be resourced appropriately. We definitely want those people to feel safe, and we are making that an absolute priority within our local policing. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. And I know from a previous inspector the importance of the volunteers that said that we support them. And I think that's the way it should be rather than the other way around, because there's a lot more of the volunteers than there is of the police, but working together collectively and using those new innovations. And we talked about the drones, and we've talked about, the marking and the vehicles and property, etc. It comes from the bottom up. Those know what the solutions are, and where we have an opportunity, like Safer Streets, to invest in the rural areas, we will. When I consult on rural priorities. So again, when we speak, we've got what the people who live in the rural communities or working in the rural communities identify as a priority. So any spends, we always take on board what the community want and what the community prioritise in relation to rural crime. And I think that visibility, I think with the neighbourhood side, is really, really important for us as well. So there's a lot going on in this space, and I think rurality is an example that we touched upon in the presentation, but also you've just alluded to how important that partnership is with our communities and the force and the businesses who are working in that area. So thank you very much for that and for everybody. I'm going to, before I wrap up, I want to pass over to Rachel just to see if she wants to add anything on just to conclude the presentations.
Thank you very much. I just really wanted to say that we absolutely committed to keeping you safe. We've discussed an awful lot of policing activity that's taking place, lots of technology, lots of operations. The reality is that you will know your neighbourhood policing officer, you will know your PCSOs. We're making sure that we've got people in every local community. Talk to us, tell us what's happening, work with us, give us information, help us to help you. We absolutely want to make you feel safe. We want to ensure that you can trust us. And we've talked a lot about the standards of behaviour. I know it is really worrying. I read the same newspapers that you do. I see the same articles. I understand why people are concerned. We will not, I do not tolerate low standards of behaviour in policing. We will investigate people and we will ensure that they leave the organisation if they're doing wrong. And none of us want police officers or police staff to be behaving badly. If things happen, report them. We will believe you, we will investigate them, we will follow it up. But overall, I would like to say that we have an amazing relationship with the majority of our communities, and we look forward to working with you all and working together to relentlessly pursue those few people who actually make you feel unsafe. Thank you, Joy.
Thanks, Rachel, and for everybody. This brings us to the end of this particular accountability meeting. I hope you found the presentation and the discussions, and most importantly, the questions and answers very useful. Clearly, the first place we should start to rebuild trust and confidence in our justice system is with the victims of crime. They must remain to the front and centre of everything we do. And that's something that we're determined to do and to continue as we move forward. And that's why improving the experience of victims is at the heart of our new police and crime plan for 24 to 29. We're determined to get it right first time. And so over the coming months and years, we will be developing better support mechanisms to enhance recovery and to ensure we really grasp what victims and survivors tell us, so we can improve and learn the lessons and address the many barriers that prevent timely justice and prolong trauma. Our victims champions, as I've mentioned, will be key to this work. They act as independent voices of victims, and they really do help shape policy and inform not just locally but nationally as well. We make sure that the voice of the victims occurring in Durham and Darlington are fed up right to the highest level, and to change things, because sometimes it does require legislation, it does require ministerial intervention, government intervention, to make the lives and the outcomes much better than what they currently are. So I recognise that not all victims will engage with the criminal justice system. But as everybody has said on the presentation today, really important we hear your voice, that you do report crime. We're making it easier, more accessible, more convenient to do so. And we've done that over the last couple of years to make it, every opportunity to share what's actually happening out there, so we know where to put the resources that are in the most important areas and the areas of high crime. But if we don't have the information, we may be acting blind. So please do share information, report crime and antisocial behaviour, so we can direct resources to the areas most in need. It's very important, as we've said, we move any barriers that deter participation, which is why, you know, we passionate about delivering the whole system approach with victims front and centre and foremost. And as the chair of the local criminal justice board, we not just hold the police to account, we are looking at the courts, the CPS, the probation, prisons, to really look at the victim's journey. And it is sometimes a long journey and sometimes it's a delayed journey, but there is a lot of work going on within this area at the moment. So I'm quite optimistic for the future of learning from all those lessons and addressing the experience, the negative experience that victims have had through the journey of the criminal justice system. My office has recently completed a strategic needs assessment, which has been really pivotal in helping me understand what victims need most to recover and actively engage with the services that's out there designed to support them. So over the coming months, we will be designing fresh interventions, but very important with our partners to meet these requirements that's been highlighted that will make a difference to our victims and also, importantly, not to forget the witnesses as well. As Commissioner, I will continue to source, to listen, to learn from the authentic stories of survivors of crime and antisocial behaviour and victims of antisocial behaviour, and provide the response to victims that they deserve. This is the only way, I really believe it's the only way we will increase trust and confidence in the long term. And I'm really pleased to say, because of the work that's been done in Durham, both in the force and in my team, the work that we've been doing has been recognised. And I've been invited to join the Victims Commissioners Advisory Group by the current Commissioner, Baroness Newlove. This is a national advisory group put together under the leadership of the Victims Commissioner, who will oversee the implementation of the Victims and Prisoners Act 2024 and also, importantly, the compliance with the Victims Code. We will be there round that table, influence and policy nationally, and through the research and improving the victims of care and the victims to make sure they get the care that they need throughout their journey. This is really good news for Durham because I believe it really means that we are at the forefront of improving care for victims and a key driver of innovation. And I know I can speak because we speak very regularly with the Chief that we determined to do that. And I think having the work that we do locally, we do have that ear nationally to make the change and to make sure that the voices are heard loud and clear. So on a final note, I just want to thank the Chief Constable Rachel Bacon and her team for their participation and involvement in today's meeting. Thank you everyone for your time and contribution.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.